Alex Eala just did something no Filipino tennis player has ever done at Wimbledon. And now the reward for making history is a Saturday afternoon appointment with the woman who owns this building. Iga Świątek won this title 12 months ago without dropping a set. She walked back onto center court this fortnight as defending champion, and even after a rocky opening match against Taylor Townsend that left her in tears on the bench, she dismantled Carolina in 69 minutes like nothing had happened. That is the opponent waiting in the third round. And if you think the numbers say Eala has no business being on the same court, you should probably know that the last time these two played on hard courts in Miami, Eala won in straight sets and Swatch could not find an answer for 78 minutes. Their head-to-head is tied at 1 apiece. Their next chapter will be written on grass, a surface where neither player has faced the other, and that single unknown changes everything about how this match should be read. Let me take you back to where this rivalry actually started because the sequence matters. March 2025, Miami Open Quarterfinals. Alex Eala was a 19-year-old wild card ranked around 140 in the world. She had no business being in a quarterfinal against the second seed. The bookmakers did not take her seriously. The broadcasters slotted the match into a secondary window. And then Eala played one of the most complete matches of her young career. She broke Świątek's serve early in the first set. And here is the part that mattered more than the scoreline. She did it by disrupting Swiatek's rhythm with constant changes of pace. Flat drives followed by sliced backhands, dipping forehands pulled wide, then sudden injections of power down the line when Świątek expected another slow ball. The final score read 6-2, 7-5, but what the scoreline could not capture was how physically uncomfortable Świątek looked trying to find her timing. Eala became the first Filipina to reach a WTA semi-final that week. She went on to lose to Jessica Pagula in the next round, but the tennis world had taken notice. A month later, Madrid, clay courts, outdoor heat, altitude. This time, Świątek was the second seed and the defending champion on that surface. Eala actually won the first set 6-4 and held a break in the second. She was close enough to smell a second consecutive win over a 6-time Grand Slam champion. But Świątek adjusted. She started taking the ball earlier, shortening the rallies, refusing to let Eala settle into those rhythm-disrupting patterns that had worked so well in Miami. Świątek won the second set 6-4 and then pulled away in the third 6-2. It was a lesson in what happens when elite players make corrections between encounters. And yet, even in defeat, Eala had confirmed something important. She could hurt Świątek. She could lead Świątek. She just could not sustain it long enough across 3 sets on a surface that rewarded Świątek's heaviness of ball more than Eala's variety. Now they meet on grass, and the grass is a genuinely different proposition for both of them. Start with Świątek. She won this tournament last year. She dropped Amanda Anisimova 6-0. 6-0 in the final, one of the most dominant Grand Slam final performances in recent memory. That result cemented a narrative that Świątek had finally conquered the surface that had long been considered her weakness. But look at her 2026 season closely and the picture gets complicated. She has a 21-11 record on the year. She has 0 titles. Her record against top 10 opponents sits at a startling 1-5. She lost to Coco Gauff at the United Cup. Elena Rybakina beat her at the Australian Open. Alina Svitolina knocked her out at Indian Wells and then again at the Italian Open. Mara Andreeva defeated her in Stuttgart. Magdala Linette stunned her in the second round of Miami. And perhaps most relevantly, she lost to Emma Navarro in the second round of Bad Hamburg just days before Wimbledon began. That is a lot of losses for someone ranked third in the world and defending a Grand Slam title. The Świątek who arrived at the All-England Club this year is not the Świątek of July 2025. She is a player searching for her level. Someone whose first-round match against Taylor Townsend required 3 sets and produced tears that she could not fully explain in her press conference. She spoke about the emotional weight of returning as defending champion, about feeling the significance of last year's memories on center court, about needing to find consistency point by point rather than set by set. That is the language of a player managing herself, not a player operating on autopilot. Her second-round win over was far more convincing. 6-1, 6-3 in just over an hour. Clinical returning, clean serving, and minimal unforced errors. Swiatek described it as feeling like a normal day at the office, which is exactly the kind of reset a defending champion needs after a shaky opener. But the question remains whether that office day calm will hold against an opponent who has proven twice that she knows how to dislocate game. Now look at grass court season, because this is where the case for the upset starts to build genuine structural support. Eala opened her grass campaign by winning the Birmingham Open, her second WTA 125 title. She went through that draw as the top seed, handling each round without a third set in the final. She then entered the Berlin Open, a WTA 500 event, as an unseeded wild card, and proceeded to beat the world number 2, Elena Rybakina, in straight sets. Think about that. Rybakina, a former Wimbledon champion with one of the biggest serves in the women's game, could not handle Eala's returning and variety on grass. Eala followed that up by defeating Elena Svitolina 6-3, 6-4 to reach the semi-finals, where she eventually fell to Linda Noskova, who went on to win the tournament. The Berlin run is significant not just for the names on the casualty list but for what it revealed about Eala's grass court game. Her ability to take the ball early, to use the low bounce, to flatten out her drives, and to approach the net when shorter balls present themselves has developed considerably since her Eastbourne final run in 2025. She moves well on the surface. Her slice backhand stays low and skids, which on grass creates genuine problems for opponents who prefer to hit from a comfortable height. And her returning, which has always been her most dangerous weapon, becomes even more potent on a surface where servers get less time to recover between points. Her Wimbledon campaign so far tells its own story. She opened against Renata Zurzuwa and won 6-1, 6-2, barely breaking a sweat on Court 12 in front of a vocal Filipino contingent that transformed the atmosphere. Her second round was more dramatic. Maya Joint, the Australian who had beaten Eala in that agonizing Eastbourne final a year ago by saving 4 championship points in the tiebreak, took the first set 6-3 and looked like she might repeat the heartbreak. But Eala flipped the match with an extraordinary display of composure and aggression in the second and third sets. She won 12 of the last 14 games, including a 6-0 bagel in the decider to complete a 3-6, 6-2, 6-0 comeback. Afterward, she admitted she had not been able to watch the Eastbourne highlights for months. That kind of emotional closure earned through performance rather than avoidance is exactly the sort of psychological fuel that can carry a player into a match against a higher-ranked opponent. So, what does the tactical matchup look like on grass specifically? This is where it gets fascinating, because the surface changes the equation between these two in ways that favor Eala more than any other surface would. Sweet's greatest strengths are her top spin-heavy forehand, her ability to push opponents behind the baseline with depth and rotation, and her footwork in extended rallies. On clay, where the ball bounces high and slow, those attributes are devastating. On hard courts, they are still effective but slightly less dominant. On grass, the top spin bounce is reduced. The ball stays lower. The court plays faster. Rallies are shorter. The player who dictates with depth and heavy spin gets fewer opportunities to build toward the punishing angles that Swiatek thrives on. Eala's game, conversely, is designed for exactly these conditions. She hits flatter than Swiatek. She uses pace and timing rather than spin to create her power. Her backhand slice, which on clay is a purely defensive shot, becomes an offensive weapon on grass because it stays below the net cord and forces opponents to dig the ball up from around their shoelaces. Her change of pace game, which herself described as tricky in her post-match press conference, is amplified by a surface where the ball arrives at different speeds depending on what spin has been applied. The serve remains a question mark for Eala, and this has to be acknowledged honestly. Her first serve percentage has been inconsistent throughout the season, and against a returner of Swiatek's caliber, donated points on second serve can be lethal. In the Madrid match, Swiatek began to take control once she started punishing Eala's second delivery. If Eala cannot hold serve consistently on Saturday, the change of pace magic in return games may not matter. But here is the counter-argument. On grass, the serve is worth more. Even a modest first serve gets a boost from the surface speed. and Eala has been serving better during this grass stretch than at any point in her season. Her Berlin run featured improved first serve numbers in every round, and her Wimbledon matches have continued that trend. She does not need to serve like Riina. She just needs to get enough free points on first serve to avoid giving sustained looks at second serve returns. Swiatek, for her part, is aware of the challenge. She told the press that Eala doesn't give that rhythm and that the change of pace on grass is even more tricky. That is telling. Swiatek is essentially admitting that the thing does best is the thing finds most uncomfortable. When the world number 3 identifies your primary weapon as specifically dangerous before the match, that is not flattery. That is preparation anxiety expressed politely. The psychological landscape matters too. Eala enters this match riding real momentum. She has won 9 of her last 11 matches on grass. She avenged a painful loss to joint. She is playing in her first Grand Slam third round and has nothing to lose in terms of ranking expectations. Every game she wins from here is bonus territory. That freedom has historically been dangerous against top seeds at Grand Slams. Players who feel liberated tend to swing freely, and players who swing freely on grass tend to produce tennis that is very difficult to contain. Swiatek enters carrying a different kind of weight. She is the defending champion. She is expected to reach at least the second week. She has had a season full of early exits and losses to players she would normally beat. Her confidence, while clearly intact enough to destroy in the second round, has shown fragility under pressure throughout 2026. The first round tears against Townsend were not a sign of weakness, but they were a sign that the emotional cost of competing at this level is registering more heavily than it did a year ago. Now, for those of you wanting to know how and where to follow this match, here is what you need to know. The third round encounter between Eala and Swiatek is scheduled for Saturday, July 4th. The specific court assignment and exact start time will be confirmed when Wimbledon releases its official order of play, typically the evening before. Given the magnitude of the matchup featuring a defending champion against a rapidly rising seeded player, there is a strong possibility this gets placed on one of the show courts. For viewers in the United States, ESPN holds the broadcast rights to Wimbledon 2026. Live coverage is available on the ESPN television network and through the ESPN app. Tennis Channel also provides match re-airing for those in the US. In the Philippines, Spot is the official broadcaster, and this will be the channel to watch for live coverage of Eala's historic run. Filipino fans can access Spot through Signal Cable or the Spot streaming platform. In the United Kingdom, the BBC carries comprehensive live coverage across its TV channels and the BBC iPlayer platform. For viewers in Australia, Channel 9 and the 9 Now streaming platform provide free-to-air coverage with Stan Sport also offering access. Across Europe, the broadcast landscape varies by country with Prime Video covering Germany and Austria, Eurosport and HBO Max streaming handling much of Northern and Eastern Europe, Movistar Plus carrying coverage in Spain, and beIN Sports broadcasting across France and the Middle East. For the complete list of territory-specific broadcasters, the official Wimbledon website maintains a full TV coverage page at wimbledon.com that lists every broadcast partner by region. Coming back to the match itself, let me give you the honest assessment. Swiatek remains the favorite. She is the defending champion on this surface. She has 6 Grand Slam titles. She has the experience of closing out matches at the highest level, including 3-set comebacks under pressure. Her Placia performance showed that when she finds her rhythm early, she is still capable of suffocating tennis that very few players on tour can live with. Picking against at Wimbledon after what she did here last summer requires a certain kind of nerve. But the path for it is real and it is visible. If she serves at the level she reached in Berlin, if she deploys her slice backhand early and often to keep the rallies below Swiatek's preferred hitting zone, if she varies her pace the way she did in Miami, mixing flat drives with dipping approaches and the occasional drop shot to drag Swiatek forward, if she returns aggressively enough in the first few games to plant doubt before Swiatek finds her serving rhythm, if she does all of those things, and if Swiatek arrives carrying even a fraction of the inconsistency that has defined her 2026, then this match is genuinely up for grabs. What makes this third-round encounter so compelling is that both players know exactly what the other is capable of. Swiatek has felt the discomfort of Eala's rhythm disruption and found no answer for it in Miami. Eala has felt the punishment of Swiatek's adjustment ability and watched a first-set lead evaporate in Madrid. Each carries a scar from the other. Grass simply adds a variable that neither has tested against the other before, and that novelty creates space for something unexpected. Saturday at the All England Club is going to be special. A 21-year-old from Quezon City seated at a Grand Slam for the first time in her life, standing across from the defending champion in front of a global audience. Whatever happens on the scoreboard, the fact that this matchup exists at all, that it is a genuine sporting contest between two players who have split their previous meetings tells you everything about how far Alexa has come and how seriously the tennis world now takes her presence. This is not a ceremonial appearance. This is a competitive threat that Iga Świątek herself has publicly acknowledged. Tune in Saturday because this one matters.